It's a spectacular event here. Martin just got off the stage with...
Spectacular?
Yeah, spectacular. With David Marcus, Facebook Messenger, Tim Kendall from Pinterest. But let's get into...
Shantanu as well from Adobe.
Shantanu from Adobe. But Martin, let's get into it. Let's talk about Google and Facebook, which is... I feel like at the streams I've been to, there's been an ebb and a flow in terms of the talk of duopoly, and we are at peak duopoly discussion this year, I think.
Yes-ish. I mean, I think the pressures that Google and Facebook are both feeling, the regulatory issues, the fake news, the fraud, internet, measurement, the 3 Vs, Keith Weed's 3 Vs, viewability, value, and validation, I think they are bringing a bit more realistic attitude, to be fair, particularly with Google. I think maybe Facebook a little bit less so, but I think Facebook making an effort as well. Certainly we're seeing on the regulatory front them having to make efforts. You know, Facebook now hiring, 10,000 people?
Yes.
So the human factor comes in. They haven't admitted that they are media companies, either of them, as yet, but they're sort of certainly moving that way, and it's not just algorithms that decide what happens to content, but there'll be judgment and humans involved too.
Do you think Facebook listens to anybody? I mean, it would seem to me that of all the people that they should listen to or have a conversation with ears open, you would be one of the people, given the amount of media spend. Do you think they listen to anybody about anything?
I think a little bit of an unkind question. I think they do. I think, frankly, that Google have probably been more responsive and more flexible. We used to refer to them as frenemies, we still do, but more flexible friends now, and I think Google has become more flexible in its response. Maybe partly to do with the regulatory issues we're talking about, Russian interference in the elections, referenda, etc., but also because of the rise of Amazon. I think the existential threat to Google, for example, is going to come from an Amazon on search and advertising.
Did you see Malone's comments yesterday?
No, I did not see them.
John Malone, actually, you kind of said it before him. He said that Amazon is a Death Star with every industry on Earth in its sights.
Well, that's an extreme statement, but I don't know whether it's every industry, but certainly a large number. I mean, what I'm sure Jeff and his colleagues are looking for are for high-margin industries with low private label penetration. Those are the two characteristics, and they're looking to shorten supply chains and provide you and I as consumers with cheaper products and cheaper services. So price and convenience very important. But there are political dimensions to this. I mean, for example, I was in India recently and I was thinking about, if you think about the number of people in India who depend on the retail supply chain or on selling things through the retail distribution, and then whether it's Flipkart or Amazon and Alibaba, they come along, and if they destroy, and I'm a believer that technology is a net destroyer of jobs.
Yes.
Now, there are others much cleverer than me who say it's a net addition of jobs. But if they do destroy jobs, for example, in India, it will become a very hot political issue as to what happens to these retail supply chains. And unless employment is provided, the biggest issue in India is going to be the employment of 100 million or so young people in the coming years. This is going to be a critical issue. It becomes a critical political issue.
Let's move on to advertising.
Yeah.
What is going on in advertising? I mean, it seems unbelievably bleak across the board right now. We had the articles out yesterday about BuzzFeed and Vice. We have Murdoch saying that he is not at scale to compete.
Yeah.
You've now forecast that you're going to be 0 for the year as opposed to 0 to 1.
Well, for this year, yes. We talked about around a flat for this year.
Yes.
As we look at next year, we'll see how things pan out as we go through the budgeting process.
Down in North America this quarter, 4.9%.
Yeah, I mean, it's been very tough. I mean, there are 3 potential explanations. One is Google and Facebook, which I don't think is true.
Okay.
Because I think Google is our largest media destination. We're investing about $5.5 billion. Facebook will be over $2 billion this year, so there'll be potentially even our second largest destination. The Murdoch nexus of Fox and News Corp and Star and Sky would be around the same number. So I don't think it's that. Consultants, are they eating our lunch? I don't think so. I think consultants do go into our clients and offer, if you were a CEO, they said you're spending too much or we'll bring down the cost. pay us a percentage of the savings and we'll help you save, and you're not going to resist that.
Yes.
That's a very seductive offer. But going head to head with us on digital interactive, I think we hold our own, if not do better. Actually, if we look at the stats for this year, we're probably about 2-to-1, 3-to-1 in terms of win-loss ratios, and even some of the biggest assignments we're really actually doing very, very well. The third issue is, what are activists and what are ZBB people doing in terms of the pressure on cost? Investment in innovation and branding is critically important. And looping back to the Amazon issue, the Malone comments, etc., in order to withstand that pressure, what do you have to do? You have to innovate and you have to brand. We know that the companies that innovate and brand grow their top line fastest. And the real issue for packaged goods companies and beyond is what happens to your volumes when you cut your investment in innovation and marketing. And the evidence is volumes fall off, and that's when the trouble starts.
I think there's two scenarios. One scenario is that it's the end of advertising, which I don't agree with. It's something that's dramatically changed, and that is why the advertising is going down. The other one, which I tend to believe, is there's a massive mistake going on. There's a massive underinvestment in advertising going on because of the factors that you said, and a fear around Amazon and Dollar Shave Club, and therefore we need to completely rethink.
No, but don't forget, whether we just won the Dollar Shave Club in Europe and the UK.
Oh no, but the incumbents.
And no, what's happened is that spending has been redirected. I mean, digital is 40% of our business. People forget that. It's $8 billion out of $20 billion of revenue. So we've already morphed. You went back to 2000, it was virtually close to zero. Mm-hmm. Same thing for the fast growth markets. In those years, they were 10% of our business. They're now 30%. So they're geographical and technological changes that have made a spectacular impact on our business, but we've adjusted. And people forget about the adjustment. I mean, I read a broker's report this morning saying because of a Deutsche Telekom were sort of fragmenting their media in Germany, which we re-won. We were the incumbent and we won again. It has made no difference to our revenue pattern in Germany. Mm-hmm. In fact, if anything, it's probably enhanced it. It's a misreading of what's going on because 40% of our business is digital. Google and Facebook are our biggest media digital partners. Our business has changed to accommodate those changes. And the total spend on advertising, not in the traditional sense, but in the overall sense, has changed. The signals that Murdoch, Rupert and Lachlan, I guess, and James are giving off in relation to the future of Fox and the future of News Corp embody that, because they're saying there are big changes in the content industry. There are big changes around linear TV and over-the-top television. And in order to capitalize on that and to benefit from that, they're going to need greater scale.
And as part of that scale, do we need to see vertical scale in addition to horizontal scale? Does every media company need distribution ownership? And what is your thoughts in that context of AT&T, Time Warner?
Well, I'm puzzled by the reaction to AT&T, Time Warner, because the regulators' reaction, because it seems to me that this would not be an anti-competitive merger, but we'll see how that pans out in terms of any lawsuits and appeals that go through. I think the biggest problem on AT&T Time Warner is the delay that it causes.
Yes. On
the assumption that the deal goes through in some way, shape or form, the problem for the management, just like with Sky in the UK. And I think the two situations, I think it was unfair what the government did with Sky in the UK. Mm-hmm. I think they should have, I think probably it was such a political hot potato that the government didn't want to do it. Here it's a sort of political hot potato as well, AT&T, Time Warner. But the same thing is, if you're trying to run a business in rapidly changing environments, it's very, very difficult. The irony in relation to the first part of our conversation is regulation has not caught up with the changes that Google and Facebook and Amazon have brought about, whereas it has caught up and gone beyond in the case of an AT&T and a Time Warner or a Sky and a Fox.
That's very interesting. And in what way do you think it should catch up?
Well, I think the regulators should acknowledge these changes and the impact on the competitive landscape far more rapidly than they're doing, because they haven't caught up on the new side of it.
Yes.
And they haven't adjusted on the old side of it. And the competitive situation facing the decision for the government on Sky in the UK is very different in 2017 to what it was in 2011. It's a complete sea change, and yet the regulatory attitude hasn't really shifted, and I think it has to, because otherwise the incumbents are in a tougher position and the people who are new to it are actually
With everybody
getting
making these radical changes, are there radical changes that you want to make to your business? If the philosophy
we have no choice.
If the philosophy to date has been, and you've used the term allowing our children to eat one another, I love that expression.
Well, the cannibalization, we've had to grow our business, our traditional business digitally. We've had to get our digital assets like a Wonderman or a VML or an AKQA or a Mirum or an Ogilvy One and grow them faster. And then we've had this experimentation phases, with our investment in Vice or Refinery 29 or Imagine or whatever it happens to be. We tried to try and we called it cannibalization, because you don't eat your children, somebody else will, so you have to change your model. But the real change that we have to make is act as a company, a united company, as one company. The days when it was a market share battle and we had compete and cooperate have gone. Clients want us to provide the best people to solve their problems. That's one thing.
Is that a sea change from where you were a year ago? Or 2 years ago?
I would say compared to 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yes. And our people have to get used to the fact that they are part of a bigger operation.
So that's I want to dig in on that point. Will a person working at WPP and today, it's a bit like when people used to say in the United States, when they say, soldier, where are you from? I'm from Virginia. Now I'm from the United States. Are we soon going to have clients say WPP is who services make?
Yes.
And that's different, right?
Very different. It's an integrated operation with 200,000 people in 112 countries, hopefully acting as one as opposed to multiple units. The day of disintegration, the days of collaboration. For example, I went through Michael Bloomberg's new building in London, which is a spectacular Norman Foster building. But the basic premise of that building is about collaboration. There's a central circular staircase.
Yeah.
Everybody, there are no offices. There are standing room, conference rooms, people standing up, stop meetings going on too long. It's all about collaboration and integration. Now, Bloomberg is fortunate because it has one brand.
Yes.
Right? Sorry to mention Bloomberg on Cheddar.
No,
anyway,
I like them there.
But it's one brand. WPP has increasingly to become one brand.
Are you going to have to move out of the townhouse and be in a bigger building where you're in the center of it all?
We have some hidden bigger buildings. But
in
Shanghai, in Madrid, in Milan, there are WPP campuses.
But the whole way that you run out of Farm Street as a decentralized holding company, you were a bit like Warren Buffett, out in Omaha. Are you going to have to rethink it where you're in a giant building and Martin is sitting in the center at a desk?
I don't know whether it will go that far, but if you go to Shanghai, it's WPP in Shanghai. If you go to our new campus in Madrid, it will be the same. In Milan, it will be the same. So in many parts of the world, we're housing 3,500, 2,500, 2,000 people. In Amsterdam, we're doing the same. I'm going there next week to see the plans for that. So we are integrating our offer into a far more effective way. I mean, clearly sometimes because of conflict. McKinsey and Goldman Sachs can handle conflict in one brand.
Yes.
It's very difficult for us to do
last topic. I really nailed Snapchat with you 9 months ago where, you said you were going to do 200. I said they weren't going to come close to a billion.
I said 400. So we were going from 200 to 400, which we probably will do.
I'm sorry.
But we'll be 400 out of 800 or 900.
And I said, no way they do a billion. And you said, and I was right.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We haven't got to the end of the year yet. We'll see where
the estimates are now at
about 850, 900. Yeah.
What's going on?
You're just trying to prove that you're such a smarty pants.
Well, on this one topic, what happened there?
Well, they've doubled up. I mean, you've got to give them some credit.
I think it's spectacular.
I would like to double our revenues from 20 billion to 40 billion.
I think it's a spectacular achievement, but it's dramatically short of what everybody thought.
Coming back to where we started the conversation, clients want Snap to succeed. They want Pinterest to succeed.
No doubt.
They want the alternative Oath to succeed. They want AppNexus to succeed. And the reason is the duopoly of Google and Facebook. Just to remind you of the statistics, is 75% of digital advertising, which in turn is 30% of the industry. And so we're talking about 21, 22% of the total.
All right, always insightful.
I don't know about insightful, but
No.
anyway.
Trying hard. I do these interviews. People email me for weeks. So, Sir Martin Sorrell, thank you.
They haven't got anything better to do than...
No, people like your long interviews.
The best thing was our friend from Pinterest, Tim Kendall, and his 5 a.m.
Ice bath.
Do you think we should do that?
I was listening to it, and I thought to myself,
shrinks your body.
I kind of wanted. Well, he said as weight loss, I could use a little midsection loss, so I think that I'll do it. All right, Sir Martin Sorrell, thank you as always for joining us. Back to you guys at the Stock Exchange.